I was never actually what one would consider overweight or obese. I just had what's called body dysmorphia, where you think are much bigger than you are. And in a
Mm-hmm.
society in the 80s growing up, it was all about Kate Moss thin. It wasn't today's more accepting body types of all different types. And I see young women today, voluptuous and proudly wearing bikinis. Growing up in the 80s, it was all about being stick thin, and I just wasn't stick thin. So I felt like I was quote unquote fat. The only people who would notice is like a neurologist or someone else who has a chronic condition may look at my hands and, I'm holding them up. My hands are pretty straight, right? My mom,
Yeah.
who passed away with Charcot Marie Tooth, her hands were like this. They were very, there was noticeably nerve damage. Mine look like many people's hands, but if you look closely, there's a wasting, meaning like thinness in the areas. You can picture like it's hard to walk. It feels like you're tripping every second, and your spatial recognition of your foot and the floor is off because of the neuropathy. The leg braces provide, fitted, for me and my body. They give me the balance. They help me with balance. They
Okay.
help me with the foot drop, so there is no tripping on my own feet. And they're, it's like a wheelchair. They allow me to be mobile.
Let's go back a little bit. So you were talking about like exercising. I feel like it's helping you a lot dealing with your disease. But could you kind of thank your body dysphoria for motivating you to exercise to be where you are now?
Yeah, vanity. I think, yes, vanity was the motivator. And then now I can say it's because I want to stay strong and healthy and like be able to walk. Yeah, because of my disease and disability, I made a lot of excuses as a young adult and teenager about things I couldn't do. So I would say, I can't do that. I can't do that. And I just didn't try, is the truth. I didn't look for workarounds. And but when you own your own value and like, you know what? Yes, I have a disability, but like my disability, and then turn it to how does that how could my disability make me attractive to others? And I figured out that, the way I live with my disability is what's attractive.
Yeah, so I think we can both agree that a lot of people are unmotivated, and I think the self-esteem levels are kind of low in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of ways. So like, do you comparing to you like in the '80s versus now? So do you think we're more insecure now or back then? Hello, welcome to my podcast, To My Fun Joe Suits. I'm Joe Suits, and I'll be giving a mic to Lainie. Lainie is a TED Talker and body positivity disability advocate in both mind and body and fashion. 6 years ago, she started Trend Able to help other disability people find fashion that is both accessible and stylish. Also, co-host for a podcast called Embrace It. Right now, I'm going to put you on a spot. On a 10 scale, what would you say is your self-esteem level? 1 being rock bottom and 10 being the top.
Oh, I would say probably an 8. Don't want to come off, I guess. I don't know. The word cocky is not really a great word, but that would be it. All I can think
Yeah,
of right now. But yeah, probably an 8. I'm a pretty confident person these days, but I'm also 52 years old. So if you asked me probably, 20 years ago, it would have been
we'll get into
5.
that in a little bit. We'll get that into a little bit. I
Okay,
know
sounds
all
good.
about you. So I think we can kind of say that we're both strange in a way, but we'll become great friends by the end of this episode. So what would you say is my self-esteem level?
Okay, my guess, your self-esteem level, I would say
Yeah.
you're right with me. Probably at an 8.5, maybe a little bit more than me.
Okay. I appreciate it. That's what I
That's
thought
my
too.
gut instinct. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're the same. Like, I don't, we want to say 10 because then it's like, we can't get any higher, but I'm sure we
Right.
have something that we want to keep it in to ourselves.
Yes. Always
But,
room for growth.
yeah, so that's great. I'm glad we're on the same page with that. So, the reason I bring up that question is because you had a very interesting upbringing of self esteem. So in second grade, you took a painful nerve conduction test to prove that you have a neuromuscular disorder called Charcot Marie Tooth Disorder.
Oh,
It
you
is a lane.
tortured that. That is probably the worst pronunciation of that
Oh,
disease.
really?
Now, it's not an easy one in general, but it's
So,
named after three doctors:
okay.
Charcot, Marie, and Tooth. And it has nothing to do with teeth or dental anything, but Charcot Marie Tooth is the name of, actually, it's a pretty common neuromuscular disease that's often misdiagnosed and not really heard of.
Yeah, so it's just for everyone to know, it is Lainey's nerves are slowly being damaged over time and her muscles are atrophying unevenly. You also attended a fat camp. You even begged to go.
Where'd
So
you
what?
pull this out of? Wow, that is like you're just putting stuff together. I like it.
Yeah, I'm here to play ball.
All
Um,
right.
so what was we're dealing with the idea of feeling fat or having a rare neurological disease?
Yeah. Well, so I think that, in retrospect, I was never actually what one would consider overweight or obese. I just had what's called body dysmorphia, where you think are much bigger than you are. And in a
Hmm.
society in the 80s growing up, it was all about Kate Moss thin. It wasn't today's more accepting body types of all different types. And I see young women today, voluptuous and proudly wearing bikinis. Growing up in the 80s, it was all about being stick thin, and I just wasn't stick thin. So I felt like I was quote unquote fat, but I also knew underlying that I had this invisible disability that people really didn't know that I had and didn't know what it meant. And so I think that, my body confidence, my low self esteem related to my body and body image was definitely related to the disability I had in this body that I didn't understand, but I knew was, damaged in some way, different and damaged. So, yeah. But the
I like how you're
thing is
accountable
just that
saying,
you
yeah,
referenced
I
the
like how
fat
you're
camp, but
accountable
that was
saying that
like
you,
just a funny blog I wrote like a long time ago because, there were ads in magazines. That's what we had. We didn't have the internet. So it was like fashion magazines for young girls and it would target young girls. My parents, they just wanted me to be happy. So they did
mm-hmm.
anything and they had the ability. I was fortunate to, send me to this fancy camp for kids to lose weight. But I was the skinniest kid at fat camp. That was and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah.
I do know that you bragged that you were the skinny kid and you were crowned Miss Camelot.
Yes, I was. Very good. Yes. Miss Camelot. Yes. That was a long time ago, but that was definitely, as a parent myself, I probably would never recommend sending your children to anything related to body focusing and losing weight. So, but
Well,
yeah,
let's go back a little bit. So, like,
sure.
you got diagnosed with your disease. So, like, what was, because I saw a video of you trying to put pegs into a hole and you had difficulty, but I think that was like 5 years ago. But, like, so how, so was it clear when you first had it, or was it a slow progression to now?
Yeah, so I have a type of Charcot Marie tooth. It's often called CMT, and it falls under the muscular dystrophy umbrella of diseases. But Charcot Marie tooth is really more about the nerves than it is the muscles. The muscles deteriorate as a result of the nerve damage. So
Okay.
it's a slowly progressive disease, and it's different. Like many chronic illnesses and conditions, it's different for everybody and looks different on everybody. For me, I inherited it through my mom. It was autosomal dominant, meaning that I had a 50-50% chance of giving it to one of my children, which I did. I have two children and biological children. I also have stepchildren, one of my children has CMT. But as a little kid, you wouldn't know that I had anything. And honestly, pretty much throughout my young adult life, most people wouldn't know that I had, a neuromuscular disease. It came off as maybe clumsy, tripping, not great at sports, not really able to run or jump. And the hand weakness is really the part that I think has gotten worse, you know, more rapidly. I wear leg braces, but I didn't wear leg braces until, as I was an adult in my 30s. I have drop foot, which means it feels like you have like an elephant you're carrying around, and so I wear leg braces, but with leg braces, I can walk, 10 miles. And
Wow, that's really
people,
great.
yeah, I mean, I do everything. I
I'm
work,
surprised by that.
yeah, I work out every day, but I was just on, as you know, Joe, I was just on this little trip and a little quick getaway. And actually, one of my leg braces broke. This has not
Oh
happened to
no.
me in years and years and years. And I didn't have a backup pair, which I always tell people to
Ah.
pack. I took a very quick little getaway and I thought, I didn't think about it. And I always tell people, take a backup pair. I did
Mm-hmm.
not. And I was not able to walk like I do every day. And it was definitely humbling because I was I was very fortunate. It was only one of my leg braces that broke. Had it been both, I would have definitely had to have borrowed a wheelchair from the cruise and not been able to get around. I kind of hobbled around for the remaining days, but
Okay.
I felt my disability was not invisible on this cruise, which is different for me because most days it is pretty invisible and to others, unless I choose to share.
So I mean, I never see you. I just saw you on the TED Talk, but you're not really moving at all. So, like,
Yeah,
if you were just walking down the street, I would have never noticed you're
you
having
would not.
anything?
No, no, nope.
No?
You would not. I mean, you might be like, oh, she kind of has a little sway to her walk. Maybe if someone was, the only people who would notice is like a neurologist or someone else who has a chronic condition may look at my hands and, I'm holding them up. My hands are pretty straight, right? My mom,
Yeah.
who passed away with Charcot Marie Tooth, her hands were like this. They were very, there was noticeably uh, nerve damage. Mine look like many people's hands, but if you look closely, there's a wasting, meaning like thinness in the areas.
Huh.
A neurologist would know. They'd be like, "Oh gosh, she has hand wasting," but the average person isn't staring at my hands. They're wondering why I can't pick up a penny off the ground, maybe, or button my shirt. But as I'm sure you're going to get to, like I just don't do the things that I don't even attempt to do things that I have another way of doing them. So
So, it seems your biggest challenges are dexterity with your hand of doing anything hand related, and then walking, but only if you don't have the leg brace.
correct. My mobility device, my leg braces allow me to do way more than I would ever be able to do, even at 20 years old when I didn't wear leg braces. I'm stronger today, and it's really because, I compensate for my nerve damage by like not avoiding things that are hard. So, for example, someone else may avoid stairs because it's hard. I don't have the same, I don't have everything that someone else does to be able to go upstairs. But as they say, if you don't use it, you lose it. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like I'm walking up 10 flights of stairs, but I don't avoid one flight of stairs. I go for it because I want my body to go through those motions so they don't forget how to do them.
I
So,
kind of feel like you also feel that you're almost privileged that you want to do it because you know that maybe one day it won't happen again.
correct. And obviously, having a chronic condition that's slowly progressive, that is a definite possibility. But it's also a possibility for someone who has no disability whatsoever. Tomorrow, they can be disabled and have no ability to use their legs, right? So, absolutely, I'm a little closer to that understanding, but I haven't my balance and all of stuff that would be progressing at 52 because I do strength training and try to do all the things I can do to stay strong. Um, knock on wood, like I haven't noticed that I'm worse than I was 10 years ago in the feet part.
I'm just curious, how does braces help you stand? Though? Like I can't like I
Oh,
don't understand
AFO.
like how it does that.
Yeah, I mean, so most people with CMT and a lot of other conditions like MS or, um, cerebral palsy. I mean, there's a whole range of reasons why people wear leg braces. But for
Hmm.
people who have foot drop, which means that you know you're tripping over your own feet because you can't lift it one leg, your feet are tripping you up, I guess.
Hmm.
I don't even know what the true definition is, but you can picture like it's hard to walk. It feels like you're tripping every second, and your spatial recognition of your foot and the floor is off because of the neuropathy. The leg braces provide, fitted, for me and my body. They give me the balance. They help me with balance. They
Okay.
help me with the foot drop, so there is no tripping on my own feet. And they're, it's like a wheelchair. They allow me to be mobile.
So I'm assuming you just wear it like you'll take it off at night and then you just wear it all day,
Correct. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
and that's considered healthy, I guess. Like you wouldn't take it off if you're just like watching a movie or something, or
Oh
you.
no, I do. I take them off in my house,
Mm-hmm.
and I am able to, walk short distance. So most people who wear leg braces can't walk without, once you're used to wearing leg braces, it's hard to walk in shoes without leg braces. Does that make any sense? Like, shoes are the challenge. It's harder to walk in shoes if you're not wearing your leg braces because your body is so used to walking with the leg braces with shoes. So around my house, wearing like a no skid sock, that, a no slip sock, I just
Mm-hmm.
walk slow and carefully, and absolutely going to the bathroom. I'm not having to put on my leg braces to do things like that, but some people have to do that. So
It's either Lainey not wearing her braces or she just really drunk right now.
right, exactly. Exactly. I just walk slowly, carefully.
I don't know if you know, but they make shoes that look like feet that maybe you should look
Oh,
into.
I wear those. Those are my water shoes. So on that
Okay.
trip that I told you that I didn't have a brace, I was really screwed because this is a total, like, maybe not a female thing, but I had all my clothes that I brought to wear on this trip were super long pants and dresses that required a plat. Like, the shoes I wear with my leg braces are higher. They're not a little sneaker. So
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't wear those things because I didn't have my brace. So I couldn't wear any of those clothes. And so I wore a water shoe, like the bare feet. I forgot what they're called, but it grips your foot more. So it provided a little bit of security. And obviously, I didn't want to walk around barefoot. So I had the water shoes on the foot that didn't have the brace the whole time. So yeah, that was a good hack there.
Yeah, I'm just kind of blown away how like shoes don't help you at all because I feel like when I wear shoes, I feel more comfortable. Not with the balance, it's more the comfortable be on my feet, but it seems to be the total opposite for you.
It's because your brace, when you wear braces, it's like the good and the bad of everything. It's awesome because they're lifesavers, but you become completely dependent on them. So, not only is it because your body is used to them, your feet are used to them, but also because shoes, when you wear leg braces, you usually have to buy a bigger size shoe to fit the leg braces.
Okay.
So I can't walk around in the shoes that are I without the leg braces. Otherwise, I'm going to be tripping because the shoes are too big on me. Um,
So let's go back a little bit. So you were talking about like exercising. I feel like it's helping you a lot dealing with your disease. But could you kind of thank your body dysphoria for motivating you to exercise to be where you are now?
yeah, vanity. I think, yes, vanity was the motivator. And then now I can say it's because I want to stay strong and healthy and like be able to walk and continue walking. But the body dysmorphia, and I was not an exerciser until after I had children. I didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because of my disease and disability, I made a lot of excuses as a young adult and teenager about things I couldn't do. So I would say, I can't do that. I can't do that. And I just didn't try, is the truth. I didn't look for workarounds. And, I definitely wouldn't be able to do a like Stairmaster for a long period of time. But Stairmasters are not the only piece of cardio that there is, right? So I just didn't look for options. I couldn't do, jumping and aerobics, Jane Fonda back in the 80s, but there was other things I could do. I kind of used my disability as an excuse to avoid most things back then.
Yeah, it was very good. Like when you went to the back camp, I'm just assuming that you did exercise, so you kind of had like I guess, a preview of exercise, and I guess you didn't like it.
Well, remember that was like, first of all, that was like I was a young kid. When I went there, I was like 16 or 17. So no, exercise wasn't a thing yet. Like extra fitness and whatnot. Yes, there was Jane Fonda and there was like a thigh master thing, but people did aerobics and that was exercise. There weren't what you have today with studios all over with different, there wasn't a Peloton.
I mean, I'm sure you've seen those like dumb exercises where it would be like a strap around your like stomach and it'll just shake for you, and then it's.
Oh my God, my grandma had one of those. We called it the monster. That's what we called it as kids, and that's where the body dysmorphia probably started because I had both my grandmothers, my dad's mother and my mother's mother were both on diets all the time and constantly talking about their body and weight, but also talking about the restaurant they just went to. So it was a very confusing way to grow up. They would talk about how great the food was and the bread basket was at the deli, but then they'd also talk about how fat they were and how they were losing weight and needed to. So my grandma would stand on this machine that we called the monster, and it would just go up and down and up and down. And all she did was read a book for an hour, and that was her exercise. And she thought it was trimming her hips.
The only thing I don't really understand is that like like guys existed for the same time as women, and the guy had exercised for thousands and thousands of years. So it's like why didn't like the exercises of men like transfer to women? Like why did women have to have totally different things? And then the other thing is that you really can't outrun a bad diet. So like how it doesn't really make sense. How are you supposed to lose weight if you really can't lose weight without the proper exercise? It's like mind-boggling to me.
Well, losing weight, I mean, that's a whole nother thing. I'm not a nutritionist, but I'll tell you that food is 90% of anything. Exercise is just, the kicker we all need to feel good mentally and stay strong, and to tone. But really, if someone actually does want and need to lose weight, diet, not going on a diet, but what you eat is the most important thing, so I was never like a big eater. I just was lazy.
I mean, you say you were fat, but like, were you really fat? Like, looking now, like, were you really fat at all, or you did like a regular average person?
Regular average person, but I was perfectionistic. I wanted to look like a supermodel. I didn't want to be average. I wanted, I knew I had this disability that no one really knew I had, and I wanted to, shine in other ways. So I was hyper focused on my body and both ways, both the negative parts and the parts that I wanted to improve. So yeah.
So I like we're talking about self-esteem. So you mentioned it before, but I have here. So you had a lot of insecurity growing up. So at one point you thought you were totally undateable, and now you got married twice. You have kids with one, and now you have 6 kids with another one. So like, what happened where you just stopped being insecure in yourself?
I think it was just all about, self-talk. And I learned, from years of therapy and, going to therapy, helping me to grow and get through my low self-esteem and to understand that really we are our own worst enemies. And it was my own self-talk that was causing me angst more than anything else. It wasn't, yes, society has bad messages about disability, about women, about bodies, but it's how I talk to myself that it was the most important thing. So once I started saying to myself, I'm worthy, I'm, attractive, I'm smart, I'm whatever, if someone doesn't want to be with me, like, their loss. The second I change that and realize the value that I bring to a relationship, not the deficits, that's when, I found both my husband and my husband that I'm married to, both my kids' dad and the man I'm married to. But a lot of times, people with disabilities like say, oh, they're gonna not like me because I wear leg braces or I'm in a wheelchair or I have this or I have this. And truth of the matter is that that is how you won't meet someone. Pointing out all the things, reasons why someone won't want you. But when you own your own value and like, you know what? Yes, I have a disability, but like my disability, and then turn it to how does that, how could my disability make me attractive to others? And I figured out that, you know what? The way I live with my disability is what's attractive. Like, it's everyone has something. Like, everyone has something that they're insecure about, something that they think is unlovable about them. And when we focus on those things, that's what other people focus on too. But when we focus on what we bring as value, that's what others will see. I sound like a
Oh.
little motivational card.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of your whole stick online, like just empowering other people to just be themselves and just embrace themselves.
Yeah, and not to be like, and I'm not a big like be so positive all the time. I'm not. Like, it sucks. I mean, it sucked to be on that trip and not to have a leg brace. Like, it sucked. It's hard. People were staring at me. Like, I kept walking around this place and people were like, what's wrong? Are you okay? Can I help you? Can I help you? Can I help you? And as you know from my TEDx talk, like, I don't get that on a regular basis. Like, I see it. I know what it's like because I have so many people who I talk to through Trendable and Embrace It that have apparent disabilities. They use mobility devices on the outside that people can see. And so they're experiencing both ableist comments and just people concerned, right? When people saw me, they didn't assume, oh, she's disabled. They assumed she was like hurt, something's wrong. Like, she hurt herself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's annoying. It's definitely annoying. Like, it's definitely annoying to be, to be asked that a million times. It's definitely hard to be so vulnerable. It's definitely hard to ask for help. Like, I needed help to do some things. I couldn't walk around the way that I did before. So that means I couldn't carry my very important coffee at the same time. So I needed help. I had to ask people. And that's hard for a lot of people to do. Once you suck it up, you're happier because you get what you want. And like, what's the loss? There's no real loss. Like, you even make people's day because they want to help, So
I mean, there's a line between like helping and just being straight annoying, too.
yes.
Like it's just being realistic with your situation and just being, and then, I mean, I always go back and forth with the disabled community of, are people lazy or is it their condition that's limiting them? It's always hard to like motivate them, but like you really don't know if they're just lazy or they really have a problem. Like some diseases are like chronic fatigue, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like we don't fully understand. Like, I don't really have fatigue, but, like, so it's hard to the way I think about it. So I just think of like an average person, and I think the average person is kind of lazy in a lot of ways,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I just kind of apply that to like a disabled person. Like, I feel like the average disabled person is lazy too.
I don't know.
And
So, like, people are unmotivated. So most people will do what they want to do. If they want to do something, they make sure to do it. So it's just about choices. So I don't know so much as lazy because that has like a negative connotation. It's like they're not interested. People show you and tell you what they're interested in by how much energy they put in it. and like,
Yeah.
I know that my husband is definitely not interested in fixing anything in this house. He told me because he hasn't done it. Does that make him lazy? No. He is definitely just not interested. So, you know what? Here are my choices. I can sit around nagging, complaining. You're getting pissed off at him, getting into fights, or I can call someone else to help me because obviously he's not interested. So, you know, so that's a poor example. He's really actually a kind of a guy who he can't help it. We're both not handy. It's not his fault. He's not handy. He doesn't choose to be handy, but that's just a, example. I'm talking about when we were talking about dating and meeting someone and, you know, people are, if they want to meet someone, if they want a partner, there is someone out there. They just have to do the work. Like, you can't sit in your house and be on support groups complaining about not finding a partner. Like, that's not the way to find the partner, right? Like, you have to be out there. You have to be putting yourself out there, like a job. If you want a job, you'll eventually get a job. It might not be exactly the job you want, but you'll find a job. So, I don't know.
I mean, I think we also have to understand our privileges too. That like yours, you can hide yours, and like we were talking earlier, like if you were walking down the street, no one would even guess if you have anything wrong. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you were just like a little tipsy or something.
Yeah. Well, and so there's challenges. I'm definitely not. When I first started the blog and started, putting out, fashion and shoe ideas for people who are wear leg braces, because that's where it started. I feel like, gosh, are people have it so much worse than me. I'd look at
Mm-hmm.
someone like you, Joe, and be like, oh my God, they have it so much worse. Like, how can I possibly write this disability blog and be legit? Like, I'm walking 10 miles, right? But, you know, people have, like, I'm not into any of this comparing of disabilities. There are challenges of having a disability that isn't apparent to others, different challenges than having a disability that's obvious and in your face. They're just different. And there's some things that are similar, but then, and everyone has a different support system. Everyone has different resources and abilities and money and ability to buy leg braces, like, or a mobility device or a scooter. All of these things make differences in people's lives. And so comparing my disability to yours, it's not helpful. And really, I don't know. It's just, we can learn from each other, but comparing is, what is that adage? That's a cliche. I'm going to give another. Comparison is the root of evil. I don't remember what it is, but it's something like that. It's not good because it doesn't help you. Like, yeah, it does suck more probably to not be able to use your legs. Yes, I am grateful that I can walk, but there's other things about my life that suck. Like, that are hard, and maybe you wouldn't be able to deal with those. So everything is different.
And so we're saying that people are unmotivated, and I think I want
No,
to say a lot of
you
people
said,
are.
oh yeah, yes, not lazy. There, some people, I, people tell you, they show you what they want, and they do the things they want to do. So if, if they want to call you, they'll call you. If they don't, they
Yeah,
won't.
yeah. So like I think we can both agree that a lot of people are unmotivated, and I think the self-esteem levels are kind of low in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of some ways. So like, do you comparing to you like in the '80s versus now? So do you think we're more insecure now or back then?
Um, I think it's different. Like, I think it's really hard today with, obviously, social media everywhere and people having to, you know, if I wasn't invited to a party as a kid, like, 9 times out of 10, I wouldn't know unless someone told me I wasn't invited to a party. I'm not seeing the pictures of all the people at the party that I'm not invited to in my face
True. Yeah.
online. I'm not seeing, I'm seeing models in magazines, right? as a kid in the 80s. Now I'm seeing TikTok and I'm seeing YouTube and I'm seeing, I'm being inundated with messages that are not great and some that are great. I think the amount of support and resources for people is awesome, and but then also not great. Like there's too much. There's too much information. So I don't know. I think that it's harder to be a kid. I think it's because there's so many choices. We're all on overload and there's too many things to check. And, you know, I think that that can make people more insecure. I mean, but at the same time, people are people. Like it all comes down to who you are. And like, you know, my kids both are have good self-esteem, healthy self-esteem, but they're also like not, you know, obsessed with looking like what's his name? I don't know. Justin Bieber's wife that all these young girls like
Oh,
they're just not those kind of people. If you already are insecure and then you're going to seek out things that make you feel not good. If you're a person who's like, you know what? I'm going to shut this off and only follow, you know, people who are different body types and are positive and, you know, cool advocates, then you're going to see what you see. So I'm literally making no sense. So I hope that you cut that part out because that made literally no sense.
I'm I think it makes sense. I'm glad you brought up the chronic ill community and to follow them, but I feel following the chronic ill community is actually toxic in itself too.
Sometimes, like if you are following people who are talking about their pain 24/7, that is not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, and there's a whole bunch of people that are showing you every part of their lives and, you know, how they're struggling to do this and this and this, and they're not giving solutions or their tips. They're just talking. Like they're just showing and
Well,
complaining.
well, the word you're looking for is advocating.
Right. Well, they're making you aware of whatever hardship, condition, pain, whatever that they're experiencing. But you know, the people who need to hear that and know about your condition, they're not watching her or him. Like they're not doing that. Like what's unfortunately happening is people with the same condition might be following them and getting more upset. Like, oh my God, I don't want that to happen to me. But
It's toxic.
it is toxic because you can't, if I was to look at all the people who have CMT and to be in these support groups, I'd be pretty unhappy because I would see a bunch of people who have much different struggles, struggles that I may never have or you may never have. But because it's like, you know, it's like when someone says, oh, I was just, oh my God, I just was stung by a bee and everyone else feels like they've been stung by a bee. It's like contagious. It's like, it's not a good thing. It's toxic for me to be talking to people about medical stuff, about their, you know, pain 24/7. Like it's not helpful. So
Yeah, I'm in this field. I kind of have to like follow people to like, like just for the sake of following. But man, some of them are so toxic. I have to unfollow them because it's just too much. Like I want to go on social media to be like hear what good people are doing. I do understand everyone do have their problems and stuff, but like you don't have to express everything. But sometimes I can see like some people have like like 1,000 likes and then like they keep the content going because they get the self-esteem from all the likes and such. But I think that's a
right. And
short-term
a lot of
solution.
times they're even phony. That's even phony. So like, you know, they're constantly, that's not going to be good enough. It's like they're using bots to like their posts and like, so, you know, I don't believe, well, I shouldn't say I don't believe. I don't think that your support system should be a bunch of strangers online. I do think that it's online is an opportunity to meet some people who might be part of a support network that could be helpful, but certainly not, you know, on a complaining page where people are just talking and you know about every ailment that they have and every new thing. And you know, if on some of these CMT things someone's like, I have trouble breathing or I'm having trouble hearing, is that CMT, is that CMT? And like 50% will say, yes, I have trouble hearing too. And 50% will say, yes, I have trouble breathing too. And then the person who's just diagnosed with CMT is like, oh my God, I'm going to have breathing issues, and I'm going to have hearing issues, and I'm going to have sight issues. And once you have that in your head, you start looking for that, right? Like, oh, I suddenly might be worse. I can't see. To me, it's better. Like, I'm reading this this book, actually. It's fiction. Like, it's on the one of the bestseller lists. But anyways, it's, why am I forgetting the name? Okay, it doesn't really matter. But the book is basically like everyone on Earth suddenly gets this box with a string inside, and it's called The Measure. That's the name of it. It's a book. It's like on the bestsellers list right now. And inside the box is a string, and everyone in the world suddenly gets this box on their doorstep, and they quickly figure out that the string is the measure of how long you have to live. Some people choose to look at the string knowing that they might only have like a week to live. Some people choose never to look inside the box, and then other people are like, oh my goodness, I'm going to live until I'm 80 or 90. And you know, I think the point, I haven't finished this book, but I'm sure the point is really like what you choose to do with your life, regardless of how much time you have, and not knowing and all of that. None of us know what's going to happen tomorrow, but you know, we all are just trying to do the best we can with what we have.
So when you do the podcast, like what are you doing it for? Like what is it fulfilling for you?
I love educating. I love, my background is I have a master's in social work. I did a lot of work before, you know, when I first got out of graduate school, I was doing a lot of workshops, for people, for women and for girls, especially on body image and self-esteem. Now I've, brought in the disability element and created, along with my speaking partner, Estella Lugo, we have a whole speaking workshop series that we bring into companies to help not only people with disabilities who are employed, but coworkers, employers, to become more empathetic and understanding about, people with disabilities. And so like one of our workshops is how to talk about disability. And there's a lot of people doing great work in this field. Our workshops are a little different because it's really like the empathy piece and tapping into people's feelings of being other, and in order to, change how they look at people who are around them every single day that have disabilities. Like, so my goal with the podcast is, we have had these great guests, and we hope maybe we'll have you on. I have to talk to Estella because we would love to have you. And but we've had all these amazing people who give tips. I don't want people to come on and like, I don't want people to listen to our podcast and feel like, oh, that was a waste of an hour. Like I want them to leave with something. And so, whether it's accessible travel or whether it's fashion, or we've had people on, a makeup artist who has no use of her hands. Like, we want people to think outside of the box. And so having various guests on helps people to think differently about their own lives,